there are still dogs braying inside of this room, or inside of the cavern. You guys have this little corridor where you're set. You've taken the guards. You know the cave doesn't seem to react to the fact that these dogs have now been going off for 10 or so minutes, and nothing seems to be changing where these guards haven't seemed to gone missing. Things have not been further investigated, but you have this kind of arching cliff face ahead of you where the stone kind of just melds back into the forest all around this area, and it leads into this stream. And you have those. Did I make it viewable on this screen? My apologies there. The actual clues that you all had from him. But otherwise, how would you all like to proceed?
Well, we got to make it back across the stream first, I'd say, or is the entrance more on this side or this side of the for getting into the crevice?
Really getting into it, you are going to pretty much be walking in the stream regardless. I think from where you all can see, I think for a while we had most of you left on the actual left side of the stream. Like, I think maybe George stayed behind with his, or with Cander's Bard, I think it was. But however it was, when you guys were on the left side of the stream, you were able to see the stairs that are kind of the right side of where the light is. And that is essentially the only point in that entrance where you can at least see the start of Dryland.
Okay.
Without investigating further, because the light's just going to start failing you.
I was about to ask, what is the light like in there? And does anyone carry a torch, or do we need light when we go in there? How is everyone for that?
Roll a perception as you kind of investigate at very least just towards that center area a little bit more.
I have to disable the dice rolly thing so it just rolls.
From D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of issues because of how conflicting that thing gets with trying to just roll the dice. All right.
Oh, good.
So
I'll have a look.
a few different things are going to happen here as you're kind of looking back for this area. You are basically just kind of like peeking towards where the water is flowing out of this just kind of cleft in the rock, and kind of looking in, just seeing through the darkness, you're going to see a figure silhouetted in black as it kind of disappears, and all of a sudden it's just going to go back to blackness. So kind of what you're seeing is the individual has the light on them as they are walking. You see just this black outline with the very sharp lines of the light, um, walking into another part of the cavern. So this person is just kind of flashing, and you're just seeing that almost dead straight ahead of you. You just kind of saw somebody walking up, maybe if I said like 45 degrees up and it's like 50 feet away, that person's probably about 10 feet, maybe like 20 feet up in the air. And it would have been right to left.
Okay. I will sort of pat Candor on the shoulder and just see if I can indicate or sort of give him a rough idea of where that is, because I've experienced that Candor might be a bit sharper than I am in these sorts of things. At the very least, I'll convey that I think there is definitely something moving in there, and it's somehow up.
Kendra will nod, and as to the issue of light, he'll retrieve a lantern, If the only they've seen him carry it before, but he'll retrieve his lantern, and offer, you need light inside, he can bring that with him. Keep it hooded for now. I suppose the one question is, the idea: do we want to try and see if we can straight for try and deal with Clark? Want to try and do we think the Goblin was telling the truth, that if we can deal with Clark, perhaps the goblins will be negotiate with us? And if so, how do we make sure they don't simply attack us on sight?
It's worth it. It's worth a try. It's the only information we have. We either choose to trust it and see where it takes us, or we choose not to and find our own way. But if we trust it, yeah, I guess we'll see if we can take care of Clark first. Nick, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately our goal is to rescue Gundren, and if he's heavily guarded, that could be tricky, but if Clark is less guarded, then it might be easier to take out Clark and yeah, use his head as a bargaining chip to get past or to perhaps trade for Gundren.
Okay. Yeah, well, sounds like we're all pretty good on Go Clark.
So the other thing that I was getting at, when you looked in there, you would have like also had one of the wolves kind of leaping out to the edge of these stairs where it's kind of held up by a collar. So the other thing to look into is those stairs are there, but that's leading directly towards the wolves.
Don't suppose anybody's got any fresh meat on them. We could distract the creatures.
Um, there's a husky goblin here. I don't know if he's exactly fresh anymore. I believe the term was similar to this is sort of meta but microwaved. But other than that, no, I don't have. You could try and, I don't know if there's fish in the stream or anything rustling in these bushes. We could try and have a. Well, that's the other thing as well. While we were coming through this pass, have we seen much wildlife in the area? Is it fairly populated by squirrely things, or are we sort of hunted out because there's some sort of encampment here that's maybe, I don't know what they eat. Have they been hunting around here? Does it look like the game are a bit scarce?
I don't think you would have any like extreme lack of wildlife around you. You guys are still pretty much in the wild where life is pretty much all around. You might find here has a little kind of eerie silence, maybe in this direct area, but that sphere of influence is going to be pretty small where it would be pretty close to like actually finding this area.
Okay, so we could give a go at maybe hunting if we really want fresh meat. Otherwise, we could try a ration pack. It's going to be more like hardtack. Well, yeah, I'm guessing a ration pack's hardtack and pemmican basically, but who knows?
I suppose I'm just worried that the longer we stay out here, the more likely we are to be spotted by someone else. Perhaps they're hungry enough. I imagine they'd eat rations if we. But if not, I suppose we will deal with them. Given given the our friend there has warned us about the stream, perhaps we should send one person on a bit ahead. Let's try to avoid all getting caught in the stream, just in case things go badly.
How do y'all want to approach this cave? You've got a goblin there. If you guys are thinking about feeding something to him, why write it off without even trying it? Throw rations and a goblin at him.
Sure, we can, try and dislodge an arm maybe and take a ration back in there and just see which one they eyeball more.
Yeah,
Um,
I got
so, sorry, go.
some. Sorry, I got some experience with animals. I can give it a try.
So if George maybe walks over to the goblin here that's all crispy and gets his dagger out, how well would I go uh, joining out an arm, maybe like a ham bone sort of thing?
I mean, overall, cleaning a creature, anything, even if it is a little more humanoid than most people would do, is a pretty simple task. It's not a question of whether you guys can handle it. It's a question of how much time gets spent doing it.
Okay, well,
Like if you're just trying to take off an arm, that's not going to take you long at all.
okay. Well, I have a dagger, so I will give that a go with a dagger, I guess.
So yeah, you can take an arm off of it.
Okay, I'll remove the arm. I'm being a little bit ginger about it. I'm still a bit grossed out about what's happened to this guy here, and I'll peel that away and wander over to Nick and sort of hand him the arm like a housewife handing off a deceased rodent.
All right. How many wolves are there? Just
Don't know for sure. I feel like we've heard at least a few.
I mean, we could listen out to the barking, maybe give us an idea, but this sounds like so far probably more than one.
I'll look in the cave. I mean, is it,
So are you taking like the lantern in one hand and Goblin's arm in the other?
yeah, I guess. Is that the cave?
Roll a d8 for me. And are you looking to cross to the other side of the stream so you can see across? Are you going to walk up that right side into the stream and like up to the stairs? Because like the stairs themselves are kind of 10 or so feet inside this cave. They're around where the end of the natural light is, shining into this cave.
Um, how big is this stream? Like,
It's like 5 or so feet wide. Most of it's like 6 or 8 inches deep.
oh, so
Bunch of like larger kind of stones. You guys have already had like minimal, but like issues slipping in the stream.
It's
yeah,
been a
go-
bit muddy, slippy for us.
yeah, it looks like I could get a better view of the stairs on the other side of the stream. Um,
So just do a acrobatics or simple dexterity check. Gotcha. So while you cross over here, you are going to slip in the stream. You're going to stumble forward in about the same time as you're going to get a similar flash from down in the darkness of this hole in the rock. You're going to see a very similar thing where you're seeing just like this kind of halo of like a yellow orange light around the silhouette of a goblin who is walking out of that area. And just in a moment, it kind of walks by, continues to walk into what is effectively darkness where you lose sight of it. Like slowly that halo kind of disappears behind it. And you can kind of crawl yourself basically out of the water. Couple of wet legs, you just kind of slipped in the stones. The stones are mildly treacherous to walk through this area. But you guys have kind of been warned, like this is like the first trap, is having the stream be the entrance. From the opposite side, if you kind of use the lantern to shine into that area, you can start to see at least 2 wolves are inside of there. There's probably 3 or 4.
okay, so we got a few wolves at least. Um, can I see how far they can get on their chains, or like, are they barking at me, or
That's effectively what I mean. Like, you can see these wolves are getting pulled taut at their chains right inside of your view. Uh, you can see one wolf pretty steady with the light from that angle. That's the one you've got a view of. There's
okay,
another wolf kind of south of it where you can see parts of where it's getting caught up by its chain, effectively in that same area. Effectively, like the 2 of these can get to that area here. But for what it is worth, from that angle, you're looking at 1 wolf constantly, 2 wolves sometimes, 2 wolves sometimes, and noise that there's more.
okay.
But yes, they're definitely focused on you right now.
All right. Well, I guess I can try to see if I can toss them an arm, I guess.
All right, you can roll a dexterity check and basically try to throw the arm into that room.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're going to like toss it up there and just kind of like bouncing off of the wall a little bit early. It's gonna like reflect off of that back wall and just kind of stumble to the ground. And you're going to see one of the wolves kind of like choke itself up and just barely miss the arm. The other one is going to kind of slam itself around where it's going to get choked up and like fall like almost ass on top of it as it runs too fast into that chain. Gonna take them a few moments. They're going to get that arm, and things will get a little quieter, but it becomes more erratic. You can basically tell at that point the wolves are able to fight over that arm, and they are currently fighting over it.
All right. I think they're distracted. I don't know how much time we have. If you
So George being back from a bit and seeing you throw the arm will sort of move into where he can sort of see you at least, and he'll raise his eyebrows at you and give you sort of a tentative sort of thumbs up and just see what your reaction is.
They're fighting over the arm. I don't know how much time we've got to sneak by.
Okay.
Do you want me to go first?
I'll look at Kanda and see what Kanda seems to think and sort of shrug and start to at least move up a little bit.
Yeah, Kander he'll kind of give a nod in Flynn's direction. He'll kind of yeah, he'll be holding back a bit here behind George, but he'll kind of like give like a nod.
All right. I'll attempt to make it to the stairs then. I'm not very dexterous, but
Gotcha. Is everybody going to go in one fluid movement going for those stairs? Or are you guys sending him first and the other two are like holding back? Have you guys thought about that? When he goes to move, is everybody moving?
I'm thinking George might move to this spot here, which means I've got to traverse the stream. Do I get a reasonable view into the crevice from that position, or do I have to be more on the
Well,
bank here? Or
if you're crossing on this go here, that's a start. Right now, Flynn hadn't really been shining the light into this cavern yet. So it's kind of, if that's what you're doing, I'll describe it when we get there. But that
okay,
sounds like
I'll
that's
cross the
his
stream
next
first.
action. Candor, what are you thinking here?
Yeah, I think Kander was initially thinking maybe hang back, not get into the stream, but I think as he sees Flynn start to head deeper in, Kander is going to be trying to move up towards or behind Flynn, eventually having to get into the stream to proceed forward. So he'll be moving forward behind Flynn.
So theoretically, I don't think there's any reason that necessarily Candor wouldn't be in that kind of position above George. I don't think there's any reason that you guys can't be in like a little bit more of an ideal way for doing this transition. But the idea is Flynn is looking to cross the stream, Candor's looking to head in, and George is looking to swoop across. Sound good to everybody here?
yeah.
I think I'm going to have everybody do dexterity, acrobatics if you have that proficiency. But effectively, it's a dexterity check to cross this stream. And then let me have everybody roll a d6 here. All right. So when you guys go to cross this area, you'll all have a solid view of the next kind of area moving forward in this. Kind of the opening, there seems to be a little bit of a T in the tunnel that seems to be kind of going off from the stream. You can see the side of the cave opens up on kind of the eastern side of the cave and kind of leads up over and kind of into some rapids where the stream is starting to go uphill a little bit to the northeast. At the same time, this same figure coming through, seeming to be silhouetted once again by the light, is going to come into view and it is going to snap a shot off as George is going to slip across the stream, and you're basically just going to have a single arrow. I'm going to roll it at all of you because he's seeing George, but effectively all of you are doing this in the same time. So we're just going to go. Flynn is 1-2, George is 5-6, and just kind of see. So Candor, that should hit you as an arrow is just going to pierce into how much? 7 points of damage. Is that going to drop you right now? No, you've got 8.
Nope. Right.
So you're going to get hit with probably kind of like a gut shot here. That is a thorough and very dangerous wound. And it is just right off the bat as you guys are kind of moving in here where this is going to happen. As far as getting into that room after that kind of moment, you're going to see that this is a little kind of just kind of corridor here. There are 3 wolves chained up. The 2 that are closest to you two are currently fighting over that goblin arm. If you get any closer, you are going to be within where their chains go. But at present, you guys can hold that position without having any issues. You can also see the garbage pile that kind of leads up into a crevice. What are your passives? Flynn is 13. Passive perception.
12 for Candor.
Yeah, I think that's good for the 2 of you to notice that there is some light not coming from your lantern that is actually coming out of that crevice to the east where the trash is. So, as that's all going down, Candor, obviously you just got shot. What are your initial thoughts here? Everybody else in the things that are going to happen, like Flynn would have seen that arrow flying towards his face just as much. George slipping on the rock would have seen this goblin full sign start to make eyes with you and release an arrow. But what is everybody's initial thought here?
If George sees the arrow hit, he's going to immediately put his fist in his mouth and sort of bite down and make a little eep noise. Be a little bit shocked.
Yeah, Candor he's gonna let out a grunt of pain. I think his instinctive move would be to try to move deeper into this little side cave that we're in here, kind of warily eyeing the wolves as he's moving, but trying to get away, take away the angle.
Gotcha. So the wolf in the southeast is the one not necessarily fighting over some meat right now. And that's kind of the furthest it could get. You know that well, actually, you're probably the one who hasn't really seen, but you can kind of see at least a little bit of slack in the chains on the other 2 wolves that are basically fighting over the goblin arm. So I don't know how far you're taking that initial flight or fight. Flight or fight. I'm saying it backwards. But how far that's taking you in at first versus recognizing the wolves are still there.
Yeah, I think Candor might kind of one hand holding kind of his gut where the arrow went in, with his other he's going to try and reach into his pack and toss somewhat like a slab of some of his rations towards the if there's the one wolf you said that doesn't seem as not currently fighting over it. He might try and toss it as a distraction and kind of try and move along the wall down to the southeast of himself where he is now.
Gotcha. So I do remember at some point we discussed that I think Elmar only had pemmican rations maybe, or some such. But if you have like a meat base, like a fat base ration like that, I don't think there's any chance the dog would not uh, love that. So I have a feeling here there's no need to really roll. That's going to at least distract that one. You know that on some level your rations at least give you some chance to distract these creatures.
So then he would try to essentially move like that's kind of the, and then even past that, like down along the south here. And he kind of like, kind of as he's moving, he'd be almost like gasping out to Flynn, like, "Well, we're goblins. We're not here to fight them." But otherwise, he's just trying to move and get away to avoid hopefully being shot again.
George will, once a spot on the stair is free, move up or attempt to.
Okay, can I
Definitely trying to stay down. Sorry.
if I move here, can I hold up my shield and like take the dodge action to try and cover George's move up the river from any more arrows? Or
There's a couple of different things that can happen. Like in the long run, you can make yourself a target and try to cover him. There's no reason that you can't do that. As far as simply like going in there to block a shot that it's in his way, chances are a lot less likely that something like that's going to happen without like actual skill expenditure. Because there's stuff you can specialize in to make yourself someone who can do that. Um, but in the long run, you can definitely present yourself out there. This will be another kind of moment where effectively let me get a um, dexterity acrobatics from George and from Flynn, and then from Candor, let me get a animal handling here as you're moving deeper into the cave. So, what are you doing with the lantern as you hold your shield out and step into the water?
um probably put the lantern down, so
Gotcha. So you're like leaving the lantern behind in that room and
yeah,
you're turning basically into the darkness.
yeah.
Gotcha. And then
Although with that dexterity check I might fall into the
so
ring.
yeah, while you step out, leaving the lantern behind, so that room's still like lit for candor and everything. As you step out, you're going to block off a good bit of the light, but you'll still be able to see that opposite way. You can see a little bit to your feet where the trail starts to open up on that right side and ahead of you. And you're going to see the sign of that creature kind of running across um, the bridge. I don't think you're even going to see it. I think you're just going to see Arrow fly forward. Um, and it'll be towards Flynn. Um, and it's just going to kind of ricochet off the wall and just kind of come to a dead float in the water, and it's going to kind of wash past you. You are going to slip into the water, but this creature's already shooting at you, and you're going to hear George crossing behind you with the tiniest little splash, like 1 foot fall into the water, and the rock was like right below the surface, and you can kind of leap across. You'll get dry. And I think, Candor, you said you were going kind of down for this area, or were you going even further?
Yeah, if he can get like even like trying essentially moving past this wolf down into this corner here is where he's kind of headed. He's trying to get past the three onto the other side, kind of following, hugging the wall.
Gotcha. On whatever level, like you can have kind of that first moment of just testing how distracted they are, getting like a hand across the fur, and it's going to be one of those things where you can like feel the reaction from the creature, but it still lets you touch you. When it, like feel the reaction on the level of like it's still going to snarl kind of back type of thing. But just kind of passing it, these creatures are currently distracted, giving you that kind of cross. And you can get a little bit better of a sight on what is effectively going to be a narrow kind of crawl through. I think you'll see two of you are probably good for it. One of you it's going to be the most difficult for. But effectively, you guys can all crawl through what you can see ahead of you in this crevice.
So when he spots that, he's going to look back towards George and Flynn, and he doesn't want to shout, but he will. Yeah, he's kind of like looking like if they look his way, he's going to be making like a "come on, come this way" motion.
I don't think there's any reason that either of them wouldn't see. George could easily like take to that wall, have his back to it. Lynn's kind of looking to see that George has made it in as he slips into the water. I think overall you guys can have perfect signs that yeah, like walk past the wolves, come up this way, or they can try to tell you opposite if you guys wanted to approach it differently.
George will trust Candor and try and go the way he's indicated. I'll follow him. He's not led me astray yet. George is a trusting fellow.
Yeah, I'll follow Candor, trying to make, I don't know, calming motions or words to the wolves. I don't know.
So while you all can kind of pass to this other side, um, is somebody picking up the lantern, or are you leaving it back, like basically at the top of those stairs?
I think Cantor would be probably trying to motion like as he's also motioning this way. He'd be like kind of like pointing to the lantern, hoping that one of them would pick it up.
Yeah, if George doesn't pick it up, I'll pick it up.
So crossing back over to this opposite side where this garbage heap is, you can see that you guys could crawl up 5 or 10 feet or so before it starts to narrow down. You can start to squeeze through, and you can see about 10 or so feet from there on the opposite side, it starts to open up where you can see that there's another light source. So just getting close to that, probably not a good chance that you really shine much light through there, but there is some chance that you've done it. But you also know once you get too much closer, you've got the hooded lantern, so crawl through like that. But you guys can kind of look over this. You've got the wolves, might have another few seconds before, or like, might have like 10, 15, 20 seconds or so. There's a time limit on how long they are like distracted by their food right now. But as you all come to this other side, you are going to hear kind of a rush of thunder. There's going to eventually be a bunch of splashing, and most of this front entrance area is going to kind of get washed over as water kind of splashes up into this entryway and is going to kind of recede away, kind of wetting the floors more than anything. Um, Everything's relatively dry after about 5 or 10 seconds of that.
So as Candor kind of as he makes his way this way, and as he's waiting for Flynn and George, if there's time, you'd see him kind of like with like a grimace. He's gonna snap off, part of the arrow that's kind of sunk into his gut, and like grab some what looks like, well, I don't know, like moss or some sort of like poultice, and essentially try and put it around. Essentially, he wants to try and use the healer's kit that he had
Med kit.
purchased to stanch up
Gotcha.
some of the wound.
So it's your number of hit dice plus your, I think, wisdom modifier.
It's
Um,
1d6 plus 4 plus your level. So it'd just be
Okay, it
1d6
was a
plus
solid
5.
4. Yep, you can definitely use that healing kit, and bam, get yourself back up to full hit points.
Mark off that use.
So they kind of cross over. You don't really need a whole lot of light to know what's going on with your medicine kit. You're very kind of, you can do that in the darkness effectively, knowing exactly what, like, you're essentially using, something like sphagnum peat moss to like staunch this wound. And you can kind of get that set up on yourself as they're crossing over. You're getting more and more light, kind of closing up that same space. I don't see any reason you couldn't do that in that time that they're crossing the room. But you all can decide who would go first, second, third, if you all do move forward with squeezing through this crack.
Yeah, if you two want to go first, I can uh try to keep the wolves calm while you crawl through.
Yep, you did say you were good with animals, so I'm happy enough with that. I'll move up to. I'm not an outdoorsy kind of person, so I'm a little bit concerned about this climb, but I'm much more concerned about whatever the hell happened with the stream a second ago and these wolves, so I'll definitely be keen to get up the chute.
Yep, and Kander will be kind of being ready to follow right behind. He'll also kind of looking towards Flynn with the lantern. He's gonna, suggest, it's like probably should put the hood up. Less
Okay.
light might be best for now. So he'll wait like a couple seconds for George to go, but if he doesn't go immediately, Kander will lead the way. He'll head in to start trying to move up the chute.
Yeah, George is a bit unsure, so he will hang a bit, but yeah, he's looking for.
All right, so is the thought that one of you are going to go first, the other's going to follow, and Flynn, you are just going to stay behind as they make that initial press forward?
Yeah, I'll follow after them. I'm just keeping my eye on the wolves while they go through. And yeah,
All right, that doesn't take an action, though, to keep an eye on the wolves. If you're
okay.
trying to do like an animal handling check, like that you're doing something with the wolves, that's a little bit different story. But like theoretically, you all can move through there in one go. It's
Oh,
just a question of how you guys would like to move forward.
okay. Well, if they're still distracted, yeah, I was only saying like if they suddenly turn towards us, then I'd make the animal handle.
My main point was is you guys don't have a whole lot of time. It should definitely be make a decision and move forward. These wolves are eventually going to finish what we've placated them with. Uh Kander and George, let me have you two roll initiative here. We're gonna see how long each of you can basically try to like do the not me, no, go ahead. You, no, go ahead. Yeah, so George is just going to crush you, Kander, as he just sits there and just kind of waits for you to go first. I'm gonna say, Kander, eventually you are the one to give way and just go first.
Yep.
So, um, I am going to do a group stealth roll of you all kind of moving through there. I think I have all of your modifiers here, so I know kind of the results for it. But you all are basically going to walk into a kind of closed off corridor where you're in almost kind of like the hammer's head of this little spot. And I will describe, once I roll your stealth, what everything you see is. But you're basically in this like dark little crevice up above you all. There's a stalagmite coming up from the ground ahead of you, stalactites in this like 30-40 foot room to the east of you. You can see a fire. There's two goblins, and you're going to see two other large creatures against the wall. One of them kind of laid down on all fours, and one of them kind of sitting on a large pile of boxes and crates. And we will see shortly what everybody in that room is doing as you all crawl in. But can I have Candor, George, and then Flynn basically place your miniatures inside of that little space?
You go first, Counter. I'll come up there, I guess. Maybe I'll go a little bit forward to allow room for Flynn.
Gotcha. And Flynn, if I don't, I believe you've got heavy armor on where you've got disadvantage on stealth checks.
Yep.
I rolled 3 10s for the last two people. So you guys are going to take that area pretty stealthily. With Candor heading forward, moving almost silently, you're kind of taking the time to put pressure onto each little like area of this trash pile where you know that somebody's going to have to step. And you kind of take that time to like slowly apply the pressure to where it's solidifying down below you. And it allows everybody to climb up behind you that much quieter. You are very quick to recognize that there's a little offshoot to this cave to the north that offers a little bit more shelter. There's this large stalagmite that's kind of growing up like 6 or so feet into the air. So it's offering shelter kind of from almost above, cutting off part of this area, as well as a lot of the view ahead. And the other two are going to be able to follow you pretty silently, where you will be able to see that there are two goblins sitting around by this fire, a large, hairy looking, otherwise goblinoid creature sitting against a far wall, and at its feet, a four-legged creature that, for all intents and purposes, looks like a wolf. This room is well lit. There is a stair to the north, and otherwise, I think you have kind of a full view of these creatures currently, with no real understanding that you're there.
So Candor's going to kind of turning back towards Flynn and George, kind of scoping out this scene. He's going to kind of gesture towards the one that's seated on top of like the crates, and he's going to just like mouth the words like big one, um, and then give like a kind of a small tilt of his head in the direction of it. He's also going to move to draw his rapier at this point, trying to essentially draw it slowly and quietly.
And how about George and Flynn? What are the two of you doing as you start to see this little scene ahead of you?
George will keep his hands free, but he will still look a little bit more serious and contemplative.
Yeah, I'll get ready to draw my sword, I guess. I'm not sure who wants to make the first move. I'm
Well, like Candor is drawing his sword. What do you mean by get ready to draw your sword?
just put my hand on it. I mean, you can.
Alrighty. So you all hold here for a moment. You're going to start to hear yelling from up in the cave to the north. The creatures around this fire are going to stand, as well as the large creatures that stands. It's going to stand almost 7 or so feet tall.
Can I hear what the yelling is? I speak Goblin.
They are yelling intruders.
All right, they know we're here. Guess if we want to attack, we gotta attack now.
Another goblin's going to run into this room and kind of run into this largest creature, almost skid to a stop, and it's going to kind of give a summation. And it's just going to kind of hold up a hand and saying 3. It's going to say there are 3 intruders coming in. Use the first wave against them. And it just kind of like cowers before Clark, or I guess before the big one. But
So, assuming they're speaking in Goblin, Candor doesn't understand, but obviously something's going on. He's going to attempt to creep kind of around a little closer, like around. I don't know how big this stalagmite is, but kind of he's almost going to try to kind of like do a um like a whisper, like a kind of he's gonna as he's gonna hold his blade kind of down to his side a bit. He's wants to try and get the attention of this goblin that's close to them.
alrighty. Are you trying to get its attention, like you're trying to persuade it forward, like enticing it with something? Are you trying to intimidate it, like get its attention and your sword's like pointed into its eyeball? I feel like you said you're kind of dropping it. Like, are you going for like buttering it up?
Yeah, trying to get he essentially he yeah he's trying to get its attention so he can try and speak with it. And he's kind of
Wait,
holding the sword like point down towards the ground, not as opposed to out at it.
gotcha. You can roll for that. Is there any reason that you wouldn't pull a coin out and try to flash a coin at it at present? You're like minutes away from buying a lot of loyalty from a goblin here, or a lot of information.
Uh Yeah, I mean, and yeah, and Candor, he's bribes are part of kind of some of what he does, so that would probably that thought would occur to him. No, it didn't occur to me.
Gotcha. So, like dropping your sword a little bit, pulling like a coin or something flashy at least to kind of like almost try to like flash the fire back in its eye, to like get a little bit more of its attention. So it's like seeing this kind of flash and you can draw it away. You can go for a persuasion here, unless you feel like there's something that you've got that's a little bit better, but I feel kind of like that's what you're going for.
Yeah, either persuasion or performance if you think it's more like
You've got persuasion. Unless I've got the wrong info here, I would say keep it in what you've got skill tree wise.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's enough to kind of get its initial attention. As far as kind of the room seems to be going, the distraction is enough that this thing kind of sees a coin, doesn't really recognize what's happening, but it'll like kind of wander towards you and towards where the group is. At present, the other three intelligent creatures in this room seem to kind of be gathered across the room here as this thing's just going to kind of wander towards you all.
So, kind of once he's gotten its attention, Candor is going to, not sure if it will understand him if he speaks. He's going to turn towards Flynn and be like, "Tell him we're here to kill Clark. No trouble with his kind." While he kind of he'll hold out the coin to actually hand it to the goblin as well as he's doing this.
Yeah,
Silver.
I'll repeat in Goblin. Yeah, we're only here for Clark. We don't want to hurt you.
Um, just trying to translate it over. You can certainly say that. I am trying to think whether saying right off the bat we're here to kill Clark is going to be a little bit too shocking versus if you guys are trying to do like another persuasion here, versus if you have something else in mind, like another check to try to like win this thing over. What are you kind of thinking, like, besides just translating to it that you're here for Clark? How are you guys trying to convey this information? Otherwise, then, like I said, if it's still just persuasion, do another persuasion check here for me. Because I see this as kind of one of those things where you start to create a skill challenge for yourself, and usually doing the same tactic like multiple times is going to be where things kind of suffer. Uh, you almost want to try to test different things.
And hmm, different approach.
He's come over for coin. We'll get a couple more coppers out if George gets a couple more coppers out and flashes them and sort of asks how many of these for you to go for a walk in the forest and maybe have some friends join you. Distract from the overbearing thing and just offer some coin for a service.
Yeah, I gotcha. I feel like that still sits into kind of like a general persuasion here. Um, so let's try to simplify this a little bit. We can let you guys make more rolls to try to translate it for the goblin to understand, throwing out some more coins, and you guys can throw in a couple of more persuasions here. In the long run, this is going to be a higher DC because this, again, like it's still doing persuasion. But there's still a chance, like you can kind of turn the goblin a little bit towards your favor. But you're basically kind of bringing it over with that first coin, kind of just like almost like hypnotized, like distracting it before it's going to notice that you guys are not really meant to be here. But it's still kind of being quiet as you guys translate this into goblin and offer more coins. Let's see those persuasions.
Is that one from each of us?
Yep. How many coins is George currently holding?
I planned for 2 coppers initially. That was what I'd pull out to indicate to him.
So it
Just
kind of
something
looks
I've got together.
over and notices that the other 3 are still talking. Kind of like looks over towards the trash heap, and it's going to reach for those 2 coppers and hold out its left hand with an open palm open. And it's kind of like looking off towards that trash heap.
Yeah, I'll deposit the 2 coppers. One second, I'm just going to deduct them.
All right, so it's taken a total of 4 from you, and it's just going to kind of look back across you all, and it's just going to kind of like leap down into the trash heap there.
George is pretty happy with that result.
So as that goblin leaves, Candor is like looking towards Flynn and George again. He's gonna kind of try and whisper like a minute, but I know there's intruders here. We might need to just go for Clark now.
It's going to be another yell from the north, which Flynn can translate as, "They've not come this way."
George will nod to what Candace said about maybe just going for the big guy. So the fire is giving us visibility in here, isn't it? We've got light in this room.
Yep, this room is lit. You guys can basically see where the light is. You've probably hung out long enough to recognize that there is definitely sounds of running water inside of this cavern and vaguely to the north. We'll hear kind of the like pitter patter of steps as the creature that like came in to report this is running back away and out of sight.
Yeah, I'm going to start to think this is probably the best time, so I'll
Yeah.
try and indicate to the others to attack, and George is keen to do the same.
Candor will nod. He's going to with rapier at the ready. He's also going to with his free hand, he'll pull out a dagger and like give a nod, and then he's gonna like mouth like, "All right, on 3."
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And he's gonna start like again quietly mouthing like the countdown, and then after he'll say 1, and then he's going to start to move at that point.
You're moving on 1? Like you're going on 3, but you're moving on 1?
Yeah, so essentially he was counting like down 3, 2, 1.
Okay, I got you.
And then after 1, not on 1, after 1 is when he would move.
I got you. No, I was thinking that you were tricking them. That's what I was trying to get at.
Oh, like this, like, okay, on 3, 1, and then go. Yeah.
Yep. So you all, if you select your token and then go over to D&D Beyond and then click to roll, you should add your dexterity or initiative onto the tracker here, and we will get everything kind of started here. You all are effectively going to be almost immediately sighted as this creature's kind of looking up and sees just out of the corner of its eye the first steps forward. I think it's very clearly going to be looking probably towards the right side of that stalagmite and seeing like Flynn and George back there. Alrighty. I think the first thing uh, is going to be just hearing. This will really be Flynn kind of picking up. Get him! As he kind of like points down with a flail in his right hand over the dog's head and kind of points out. You're going to see as the canine kind of jumps to and is going to start running across this room. I think Clark's going to look to Flynn, and kind of just yelling out, "You're not sneaking up on the likes of me." It's going to kind of rush into you and will be swinging its mace. 14, I believe you're going to block with your armor?
Yep.
And the wolf is going to run across, and that's going to leap out towards you, Candor. And I believe that one's going to be the same. A 14 to you, I believe, is just over your AC.
14 hits.
Gotcha. And oh yeah, my bad. It has pack tactics, so I actually and it's going to try to bite down on you. Damn. For 10 piercing damage. I need a strength saving throw from you. So as it like leaps across, almost catching you at unawares, it's kind of like leaping over the fire and like over this other goblinoid in the room, kind of like clenching down onto your left hand and just narrowly flying by with all of its body's weight, like almost right past that stalagmite. It's just going to kind of whip you around in like a judo toss, and you're just able to stabilize yourself from all of its weight. This is a much larger canine than the other creatures. This is a very big wolf, and you've just felt like the brunt of its attack, pretty much quite literally. What are you going to do, Candor?
Yeah, so the thing kind of whips him around. He'll like the nice nice little bandage that he made. The wound's gonna reopen. He's looking very rough here. But he is going to um from where he's given the stalagmite, is he able to uh from where he is attack Clark, or would he need to essentially step around to the side here and try to get away from the wolf to do that?
Yeah, I don't have you grappled. As far as I'm concerned, the stalagmite is an issue there. Inside of melee combat, not an issue at all. But like shooting from outside of that, the three of you are all, realistically, almost the four of you are all battling around that. So missile fire is where there's like issues there. But inside of melee, you're good to go.
Gotcha. Yeah. So he's going to kind of almost like spin back around, like, in the same second that the wolf is bringing him. He's going to shout, "This is for Mitzo." And then he's going to attack Clark, trying to stab into it with his rapier as he's like sweeping his dagger aside as well.
So your first strike is just going to kind of like clip into the side of some steel. You're just going to hear the rapier kind of like ping off of the steel as he kind of turns into the shot. He's going to block almost full shield. The actual dagger strike kind of moving back across, a little bit more attention gathered on you, kind of attacking him from the side. But each of those are going to find his armor.
And that second one with the dagger, that should only be 3 regular piercing damage. I need to make an offhand dagger because he doesn't have 2-weapon fighting yet.
Gotcha.
So there's no ability modifier on that one.
And
You'd still get the sneak attack because the first one missed.
both of those ended up missing anyways.
Oh, they both
But
missed?
yeah, if sneak attack, I always assume, unless you are telling me otherwise, I always assume sneak attack is applied to your first hit, because sneak attack a rogue needs to do. That's all of their damage. But theoretically, that is the end for Kander's turn. Unless you would like to move, you are welcome to that. George, what would you like to do? I would say you're also probably not actually in combat, where that square would kind of say a little bit like you are. Inside of that room, you probably have no view right now of Clark, or very little, kind of from that perspective.
But I can see the wolf.
You can definitely see the wolf. The wolf is almost inside of that area with you all right now.
Okay, well, I will attempt to attack the wolf. I'll go for an Eldritch Blast on the wolf.
Yeah, as it's tumbling over, solid blasts into it with the Eldritch. Anytime you roll, if you don't roll damage, get that damage up there as soon as possible.
Ah, okay.
Yep. 8 hit points is definitely going to be a solid kind of blow into this creature. Anything else movement-wise from you? Otherwise, it's going to go to Flynn.
Can I see Kander?
What purposes? What are you thinking?
Healing
Do you
Light.
know he's there? Yes. Can you see him like really well? No.
Do I have vision on him to cast? Well, it's not cast. It's a bonus action class ability. But I need visual.
I don't think there's any reason for that to not.
Okay, well, I'm going to use one of my healing lights. I'm going to expend 1 charge of that, which will do 1d6, which I'll just roll in the flat. Ah, brilliant. So Kander, you're bathed in a weird sort of light that George seems to have something to do with. He's glaring at you anyway. Grab 6 health points.
And then
And I'm
on
not
to
moving.
Flynn.
Can I hit the wolf from here?
You most certainly could.
All right. Yeah, since it's damaged, I'll try to take it out first.
So solid strike with your longsword. Same thing. Anytime you roll, just roll the damage right away. Cutting across it with your sword. Do you have an offhand weapon? No,
No, I've
longsword
got
is not. So yeah, as you kind of
longsword
strike
and
into
shield.
that blow is going to kind of combine with like the force against the wall, almost like gash open the entire stomach of this creature. It is still fighting. This thing is extremely hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll turn back to Clark, sort of let him see that I just cut open his pet. Hopefully keep his attention on me.
The goblin's going to draw its bow. And it's going to hold for a moment. And it just doesn't seem to be releasing the tension. Clark is going to kind of like push through and over Flynn with his weight, and kind of coming around this corner, he's going to swing into George, kind of like spinning around, smacking into
That
you
is a
with
hit.
his mace. He's going to deal 17 points of damage.
I am out cold and bleeding horribly.
So he's going to drop George to the ground. The wolf is going to think. All right, the wolf is going to be running forward towards George. That will proc attack of opportunity for a candor if you would like to strike out at the wolf.
Yep, Candor will try to stab at as it is going past him.
Solid hit. It has 2 hit points. Excellent. Yeah, I was going to say, I think you auto kill it. So as it's kind of running away from you, just rapier, you can like see it like watching George go unconscious, and the wolf is like leaping at his throat in air. And you're just able to kind of get the rapier in that perfect spot right through its spine. The wolf's just going to like flop into George. Both of them are still, George is still at least breathing, but the wolf is not. And it's going to go to you, Ken.
Yeah, Candor's gonna, even as he's like stabbing out at the wolf, kind of almost in midair. He's seen the mace just kind of like just swipe in and just knock him, and he's gonna be shouting like, "Hang on, George!" He's gonna kind of move, following into the wolf, and he's going to be stabbing out at Clark.
When you stab out at Clark, your rapier will sink true. There's going to be an arrow that, as he kind of brings up his shield to deflect your dagger, an arrow from the right side of the screen is going to, from the screen, the right side of the stalagmite is going to stick into his shield, inadvertently blocking the goblin shot from the side of the area, watching as you attack this time full well. Recognizing your plea. Any more movement from you? Otherwise, it will go to George with a death save. And if you can roll the death save with a DM whisper, I'd rather this be secret. No death save will count unless it is secret.
Yeah, I imagine there's not room with the end of that shoot for Candor to try to get past Clark. Circle
As
around.
far as the room goes, if you wanted to continue to move, yeah, you definitely can make any other movement you want to. It is difficult terrain, like moving through Clark. You don't have open area to move, but you can definitely make it there.
Gotcha. Okay, so that was 5, 15, 25. Okay, yeah. He'll get there and he'll kind of moving past him as he's like using the stab to kind of maneuver his way by him over towards George.
So, George, if you were going to do the roll in D&D Beyond, you also switch a roll, like for the Whisper in Beyond 20. If you just roll a D20 inside of Roll20, there's just a little GM button in the top side of uh, the die roller. Like if you look over the polyhedron on the left side of the screen.
Yep, I was looking for that.
Excellent. And then Flynn, what would you like to do, sir?
The hmm, do one of two things. I think I'll. I think for this turn I'll attack Clarg.
Solid hit. Dealing another 8 to him. Anything else bonus action or move? Otherwise, you're just holding there.
Yeah, I'll hold here.
All right, another arrow's going to fly over the stalagmite, kind of piercing into the shoulder of Clarg. Clarg kind of looking over. He is about to. He is going to disengage from you all. He is walking over to this goblin, and you're going to watch as he's kind of like reaching out. He's about to kind of like pick up to choke out this goblin. That is effectively what he can do this turn, but he just casually stepped away from you all there. Kander, what are you doing?
Yeah, so as Clark is stepping away, Kander's going to use that opportunity to. He's going to drop his dagger and move to try and do what he can for George. So he's going to use pulling out the healer's kit again, kind of same thing, like trying to just staunch some of the wounds, um, heal him up as best he can.
Gotcha. So it's the D6 plus 5.
Just for 6.
6 hit points. Gets him out of the death saves. He is conscious. You are prone on the ground. I don't believe you had anything in your hands, so you didn't necessarily drop anything. If there's any other movement from Kander, you are welcome to do so. Otherwise, it's on to George as you open your eyes and see Kander and Flynn, but no Bugbear.
Okay, well, I open my eyes on the ground. I'll use half of my movement to stand up. If I step out a further, well, I'll go 5 feet at a time. If I step out 5 feet, can I see the bugbear?
My apologies. I should say you should definitely still hear. Clark is like yelling across this cave right now. So it shouldn't be a surprise that the bugbear is still like somewhere.
Okay. Can I see him from moving down this 5 feet, or is the stalagmite getting in the way?
The stalagmite is in the way, but you can get an eye on him. It's just one of those things where, like, effectively any missile attack from there, there's cover between you and him.
Okay. I will. I will cast my. Mouse isn't working here. Sacred Flame. On
Gotcha. I believe that's a deck save.
It is.
So if you will bring up the damage for that, he's going to not even paying attention, kind of stepping away from you. You're going to watch as there's a beacon of light from above that kind of like sears down, doesn't even draw his attention in the least bit. And you can just smell a little bit of like the cooked hair as his flesh kind of sizzles. But he's like reaching out for this goblin that just shot at him. Anything else from George at present?
I will move 10 feet back up the wall if I can, just to try and duck out of the way. I'm a little bit shocked about how badly that went compared to my first experience with it, and that's all I'm going to do.
And what would Flynn like to do?
Well, since George seems to be up, I'll attack Clark again. um, I'll move. See, that's 5, 10, 15.
So solid slash across his back while he's like walking down this goblin. It's got like super thick hide, and you're kind of like just drawn straight through this. And I think as you kind of like rake across his back, you're going to see this is one of the first wounds that's like kind of really, really gotten through his flesh. And there's deep wounds that are going to take quite some effort to heal.
Um, do you use the optional flanking rules?
No.
No? Okay.
There are characters that can gain flanking. There are times where you can get cinematic advantage to give yourself flanking, but in general, flanking is not something that is just given as a optional rule.
Okay, makes. I'll continue the movement around anyway. I was going to move here so that Candor could sort of get on the other side, but yeah, and that's all.
So he is going to reach out and taking this goblin by the head, he's just going to kind of grab it by its skull and just like spin it and bash it into Flynn. 17 just deflects off of your armor.
Yep, I got 18
Uh,
mail.
the goblin's head is going
Nope.
to wrench, and this body is just going to fall limp to the ground. And he's just looking at you, Flynn. He's like, "Bleh." And that will take us to Candor.
Yeah, so Candor is charging forward again after getting George up. He's gonna leaving the dagger that he dropped behind, but he's drawing his other one as he moves, and as he comes up on Clark, kind of as he sees this like goblin just dropping limp, he's stabbing out again at Clark.
Let's see. The rapier is going to just kind of be deflected off of his shield as he's kind of looking back. And I think he'll be taking that dagger for another 6. I
So
think.
the dagger would actually only be 3.
Oh, okay, that's where. Gotcha. For the 3. I didn't actually mark it, but again, this is where he actually is showing signs of being wounded. Clark is bloodied.
And that's all for Candor. He'll be like shouting like, "Come on, George!" as he runs off the region. That's it.
If you make yourself a duplicate dagger, you can. There's just a click box for offhand weapon. The biggest thing is naming it that and then marking it so it shows up as an attack. It's like 4 different things, like real quick if you wanted to actually create it. Otherwise, I'll make it for next week.
Yeah, I'll work on that.
George, you've seen the other two kind of move out. Clark kind of yelling off. I think those would have been in common while he's like talking to humans. What thoughts do you have from the relative safety of that little corridor?
I will follow. I'm a little bit hurt, but these people have helped me get back up, so I'm not going to leave them. I'll run down and squeeze through between the cave wall and the stalagmite. I will see Clark. I'm going to cast I'm going to use a bonus action to cast Hex on Clark and apply a disadvantage to his strength. I'm then going to basically keep running at him. When I get into a melee range, I'm going to attempt to shove him in the same direction as the goblin that he's just choked out.
Gotcha.
I think
I think you can win that shoving contest.
I hope so.
Yeah, you gave him disadvantage on strength, so they got a 20 and a 1.
Yep. And that's all George will do. So my shove was to push him over, not to push him away.
Gotcha. Looking to push him prone.
Yes.
He will fall, and to Flynn.
Oh, well, if he's prone, take advantage of that and attack him.
One solid hit from above with the longsword, kind of slashing across him. It just kind of slides off of his shield. He is going to stand back in your faces. And still kind of says the same thing. He's going to swing for Flynn. You'll miss. Just kind of a little bit too quick and too off shot from having to stand from that blow. Recovering to his feet, and it's going to go to Candor.
Yeah, so Candor is kind of dancing around a bit, moving around, and still and stabbing out at Clark, trying to finish him off.
So the rapier misses. Offhand's going to sink for 5 more.
Yep, and he's kind of just still like kind of dancing around, but staying, not getting too far away.
So while you stab into Clark with that offhanded dagger, he is going to go limp on this dagger thrust. And you're going to see behind you is like a little ball of fire lights up. And then it just kind of like sits. And for a moment there, you're going to see the kind of outline of a little kind of goblinoid face before the ball of fire is going to fly out towards you. And I believe that will hit you with a 15, and it's going to deal 1 damage of fire to you. As you see, there are two little goblins at the top of the screen. It will go to George.
Okay, so Clark going limp. Is he now on
Clark
the
is
floor?
effectively dead, unless Kander wanted to knock him unconscious.
Okay.
No, Kander wasn't thinking that. Yeah.
Well, if I can see one of these goblins on the north side, I will bonus action my hex over to one of them, and I'll maintain the strength disability or disadvantage. And I will follow that up with an Eldritch Blast at them.
Solid hit with the Eldritch Blast for 2 damage.
And a hex additional.
Yes, 7 will be enough that you're just going to kind of shred that goblin who just slung the fireball.
And then I'm going to be a little bit of a coward and just duck into the protection of this section and end my turn.
One of the fireballs is going to come over the shoulder of Flynn, smacking you for 3 fire damage. And then it should go back around to Kander. Yep, you've got the one goblin who just hit Flynn. What would you like to do? Wait, no, it goes to Flynn, the goblin that just shot at you.
Sorry, I just got to check, did that hit George? Because I've got to make a con save if it did.
No, that was at Flynn for 3
Okay.
damage.
Cool.
Let's see. I could go. All right, I'll try something. Can I cut off Clark's head?
Just in the moment of everything, you're going straight for his head?
Yeah.
All right, do a strength check for me.
Pure
You
strength
could
or
do
athletics?
you could do athletics. No, this is strength.
Okay.
I think if you had you could add proficiency though. You do have survival. We'll go strength survival. Yeah, I think you can pretty quickly across this turn cut the head off of Clark. It's gonna take that turn to kind of like saw through the spine, but you can definitely dismember him. And it will go to Kander.
Oh, can I speak during my turn?
What are you trying to say?
I'm just trying to say, stop, or you'll end up just like him in Goblin.
Gotcha.
Is that an
Yeah,
intimidate? Or...
you're not getting an intimidation check and getting to cut his head off.
Oh, okay.
If
Sorry.
you wanted to do an intimidation check, we could have done that. But like the fact that you just sawed off somebody's head, you're like getting covered with arterial bleeding while you're like, you guys want this to happen to you? Because it's going to happen to you too. You're doing it. You don't get the check too.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I wanted
Um,
to intimidate.
Intimidation would have been
Yeah.
more like if you were saying it, but not actually cutting off his head yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was trying to intimidate them by cutting off his head, but okay.
Yeah, like if you had failed that check, you would have like been sawing at his head, looking like really, really weak. My point is that by cutting off his head, there was an implicit intimidation check happening, versus doing an intimidation check would have made it easier to perhaps accomplish something, and more likely for something bad to happen. But
Okay.
it's just sometimes doing stuff like the intimidation check is just implicit with being that gruesome. Kander, what are you doing as Flynn is basically sawing through the spine of Clarg before removing the skull. It's kind of like twice the size of a human.
Yeah, Candor is like he's kind of like trying to like almost like dance backwards, like avoids having the blood like kind of spatter on him. But he's looking up,
Yeah,
you
because
know.
he's bathing in blood doing that. So you can definitely avoid it if that's part of your first.
Yeah, and he's like he's looking he's looking kind of off towards the goblin, almost kind of starting to like call out even as George kind of shreds apart the one of them, and he's just yeah, he's backing up. He's shouting like hold, we came for Clarg, uh and he is essentially just trying to um hoping to avoid if they continue firing at him. He's trying to kind of like dodge and like dip about a bit, kind of like acting defensively, taking the dodge action.
Gotcha. Then back to George.
George will duck out and take a look. Is the goblin's still standing there? Does it look to take any effect from Canda's words?
These goblins are effectively out of your sight where there is no
Ooh.
longer actual fire. When they've lit up their hands to attack, you all have seen where they are. But other than just knowing a general idea where these things are, you're just kind of yelling into the air more than you can actually see one of these creatures.
Okay. Well then, I might lean. Is map items rough? Like there's a bed here.
In general, like this area here, you can tell is a little bit more like kind of lived in around the fire. A lot of the actual areas around are like closed crates of goods. I would say there's a lot less food than I would say is depicted in this. But this is very much a lived in den.
I'm just looking for something loose on the floor, roughly fist sized, a bottle, a rock, straw, just anything that I can.
You find that?
Cool. So I'm going to just bend down quickly and I'm going to cast my light spell on it just to illuminate it where it is in this general sort of area. Hopefully giving some view to the others, and then I'm going to duck back away again. End my turn.
Gotcha. So you're just casting light on something on the ground?
Yep.
I think you're gonna find it still kind of silhouetting a pretty similar spot in that general area. If it gives you any more sight of that creature, it's going to be just as far moving past. There's a few different light sources in this room that are pretty close to where that is, because there's like a torch over Flynn's right shoulder. The fire was kind of just below you there. And then another torch like along the wall over kind of like Candor's left shoulder. So you can definitely light up the area, but if you're just leaving it on the floor, it's just kind of further illuminating the same room.
I didn't think I'd have an action to throw it in the same because it takes me an action to cast. So I was thinking I couldn't
No, that's correct.
throw or kick. So yeah, I'll leave it as is for now. I might see if I can give it a good old boot next turn, but for now I'm just cowering.
Yeah, so you are going to hear kind of pitter patter of feet kind of running away off to the northwest before they just kind of get lost into the silence of this cavern and kind of the water flow that is more kind of like easily identified as north of you all. from like effectively outside of the stalagmite area. Once you're in the cavern, you can hear the water is more clearly coming from that room. But as far as the initial kind of moments here, you all at least have the idea. You've taken Clark's head. You've gotten some level of goblins just like leaving this area, some level of help from goblins, and now a creature is running off to the west. What are your initial thoughts in this moment here?
George is going to be having flashbacks about being crushed by a flail. He's going to be patting himself down a bit and just trying to figure out what's holding him together. Existential nightmare.
So Kander is going over to retrieve the dagger that he had left up here. Just kind of resheathing it, and then if there's time before anything else happens, he's going to return into the room, and he's basically gonna kind of look to take a seat on top, just like a crate somewhere.
Gotcha. And what are you thinking as you're like sitting down on the crate?
He's not, he saw the goblins running. He's not, or heard them, I should say, or heard one of them, I should say. So he is essentially just like, he's hoping that maybe, there's, maybe they're going to, get, Mitso. So he's essentially kind of just in a holding pattern at the moment.
Kind of what I wanted to hear you say out loud. Are you expecting when you sit down on this crate, you guys have proved yourselves the big man, and you are waiting for them to bring Mitso to you?
That's kind of what Kander's thinking, yeah.
All right, gotcha. So you guys are seeing Kander sitting down, just kind of casually, like walking over, picking up this like bloody dagger that got dropped in the heat of the battle, kind of getting his med kit back together. He's right back to like adrenaline is switched off, and I'm just kind of doing my thing before he casually sits down. Where are you two at? Where is Flynn in kind of the like calming of these moments? Are you like taking the skull of or the head of Clark and like adorning it upon yourself? Are you putting it somewhere? Are you gonna like hold it? You're covered in blood. It is a pretty horrific thing, getting a freshly wounded head cut off.
Um, yeah, I'm not sure. I just hope we can use the head, get the to bargain for the prisoners. Let's see. I guess I'll
On
just
your lap? Are you gonna keep it like on like its own barrel? Do you want to put it on one of the torch like sponsons?
yeah, I guess I'll just, put it like on a barrel in the middle of the room.
He's got javelins. It should be a stone floor, but like if you want to present the head, you can definitely present the head as kind of a central piece, to make it a little bit more clear. But are you guys going to start talking about this? That at this point you're going to like basically wait for the goblins to come like present themselves to you?
George might take a look at some of these crates and, yeah, he'll find a comfortable one to sit down near the fire. He's a little bit confused about what's going on right now, but yeah.
Roll a perception check for me, George. I think looking through real quick on the crates, you can see most of them have a lion head that is across a shield, for the lion shield caster.
Okay, so we visited them earlier this day, so I'm familiar with that. That's okay. Interesting.